You've heard the Quranic verse permitting up to 4 wives, but also seen it condemned as a mechanism of male dominance. You've seen families weighed down by jealousy and financial strain, but also widows and orphans rescued by a husband's charity. Is polygamy a divine concession for social justice, or a patriarchal loophole ripe for abuse? I'm Fakir Al-Kamosh. In these 8 scenes, we will explore the origins, ethics, and modern debates around a practice that sits at the heart of gender controversy in Islam. In Surah An-Nisa 4:3, Allah declares, "Marry the women who seem good to you, 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear you will not be just, then marry only one." This allowance followed the Battle of Uhud, when many men perished and left widows and orphans vulnerable. The verse did not license men's desires, it created a system of social solidarity. Conditional permission. Polygamy is halal only when justice among wives is achievable. Justice clause, the injunction to deal justly, encompasses equal dowries, housing, time, and emotional care. Fallback to monogamy. If fairness cannot be guaranteed, the believer is commanded to marry just one. Ask yourself, was this verse primarily a social welfare reform, or a concession to men's impulses? How did early Muslim communities implement the justice requirement in practice? Can one truly balance love, time, and resources equally among multiple wives? Prophet Muhammad himself modeled the ethical limits of polygamy. His marriages were never casual. Each union carried social, political, or humanitarian purpose. Zainab bint Jahsh. Originally married to his adopted son, she became the Prophet's wife to abolish pre-Islamic taboos around adoption and inheritance, demonstrated that polygamy could drive legal reform, not personal desire. Salama. Widowed with children after the Battle of Uhud, her marriage to the Prophet ensured her and her offspring's security. He provided for her needs equitably, illustrating the social welfare dimension. Aisha bint Abu Bakr. Though his youngest wife, she was central to early scholarship, showing that women in polygamous households could wield influence and independence. Early community oversight companions spoke out when fairness seemed at risk. Whenever the Prophet sensed a wife's distress, he adjusted arrangements, shifting living quarters or modifying financial support. No forced marriages among his followers. Each woman's consent was paramount. 4 schools on justice Hanaf. Equality in dowry and maintenance is mandatory. Emotional parity is ideal but unquantifiable. Malik. Judges assess fairness contextually. If exact equality is impossible, aim for proportional equity. Shafi. Strict textualists. Equal time and financial support are non-negotiable. Emotional claims remain beyond legal redress. Hanbal. Emphasize husband's intention. If justice is feared lacking, monogamy is compulsory. How did the Prophet, peace be upon him, balance personal, legal, and social dimensions of marriage? Can modern husbands and judges honor both letter and spirit of the justice clause? Does the diversity of fiqh opinions offer flexibility or create loopholes for abuse? Beyond texts and juristic opinions lie real lives shaped by polygamy's complexities. The practice can foster security, but also ignite conflict, jealousy, and emotional strain. Family dynamics, jealousy and rivalry. Sharing a husband's time and resources often breeds competition. Women report feelings of neglect when schedules clash or financial support varies. Sibling bonds. Children from different mothers may experience divided loyalties. Yet in some households, half-siblings form deep alliances bonded by shared father-figure responsibilities. Emotional well-being support networks. In healthy polygamous families, co-wives sometimes become allies, coordinating child care, sharing household duties, and offering mutual companionship. Mental health risks. Studies in Morocco and Nigeria indicate higher rates of anxiety and depression among women in involuntary polygamous marriages, particularly where consent was absent or justice unfulfilled. Economic realities, resource allocation, equal inheritance and maintenance can strain a husband's finances, leading to reduced dowries or delayed support. Conversely, women in need, widows or single mothers, may gain crucial economic relief through a second marriage. Labor participation. In households with co-wives, some women leverage cooperative business ventures. Pooled dowries fund small enterprises, from sewing collectives to agricultural co-ops. Community adaptations, legal restrictions. Tunisia and Turkey outlawed polygamy, citing social cohesion and gender equality. Malaysia requires judicial approval and proof of financial capacity. First-wife consent is often sought. Cultural stigma. In urban centers across Egypt and Indonesia, polygamy is increasingly rare, viewed as archaic rather than normative. Media and literature depict it as source of sorrow, reinforcing monogamy as ideal. Voices from the Field Nigeria. A widow in Kano praises polygamy's safety net. After my first husband died, my children and I had nowhere. My new husband welcomed us without question. Morocco. A young professional relates pain of sharing her partner's affection. He timed visits. When I needed support, he was elsewhere. The justice clause felt hollow. Can modern safeguards, mandatory consent, financial assessments, counseling for co-wives, mitigate polygamy's harms? When economic necessity drives polygamy, does it empower vulnerable women or entrench dependency? Should the global Ummah revisit the practice in light of contemporary family law and psychological research? Across the Muslim world, polygamy's legal status varies widely, from outright prohibition to tightly controlled allowance. These models reflect differing balances between social welfare aims and gender justice concerns. Outright prohibition. Tunisia, 1956, and Turkey, 1926, abolished polygamy under modernizing reforms. Legislators argued that equal citizenship requires monogamy, viewing polygamy as incompatible with women's rights. Court challenges citing Quranic permission were rebuffed in favor of Republican equality. Impact. Studies show lower rates of family conflict and enhanced women's legal standing, but some critics argue vulnerable widows lose the safety net that polygamous kinship once offered. Conditional permission. Malaysia. Sharia courts may grant polygamy if the husband proves adequate finances, just conduct, and, in some states, consent from existing wife, i.e.s. Judicial overseers evaluate each case, issuing a formal license. Indonesia, Aceh Province. Local qanun allow up to 4 wives with court approval, requiring evidence of capacity and first-wife consent. Elsewhere in Indonesia, polygamy is legal under national law, but rarely practiced. Effectiveness. Licensing systems deter impulsive polygamy, but hinge on transparent court processes. Delays or corruption can undermine protections. Unregulated practice. Parts of sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Customary or tribal systems permit polygamy without formal oversight. Women's consent may be assumed. Financial checks are rare. Consequences. High prevalence of abusive arrangements, disputes over maintenance, and limited recourse for women in judicial forums. Hybrid models, Jordan. Draft bills propose mandatory arbitration panels before polygamy, counseling for spouses, and fast-track cool procedures if justice fails. These have yet to pass, but signal evolving consensus. Morocco. Family courts interpret the Justice Clause strictly, denying polygamy when a wife demonstrates potential harm. Though not banned, refusal rates are high, effectively limiting the practice. To assess which legal model best aligns with Islamic ethics and social well-being, we examine outcomes: domestic peace and family stability, Tunisia and Turkey. Monogamy correlates with lower divorce rates in modern surveys, suggesting reduced marital conflict. However, some widows report lack of social support once polygamy was outlawed. Malaysia and Aceh. Licensing results in fewer polygamous unions and provides legal recourse for mistreated wives. Yet bureaucratic hurdles sometimes delay justice. Women's rights and agency consent mechanisms. Where explicit consent is legally required, women report greater bargaining power in marriage contracts, translating into improved financial and emotional security. Judicial oversight. Hybrid systems, with judges empowered to deny polygamy, mirror the Prophet's fairness mandate, though outcomes depend on judges' sensitivity to women's testimony. Social welfare trade-offs, safety nets. Outlawing polygamy can leave some women without spousal support, highlighting the need for state welfare programs to fill the gap. Community perceptions. In regions where polygamy is stigmatized, even licensed arrangements carry social stigma, affecting women's mental health and social integration. Pathways. Forward integrated reform. Combining strict conditional licensing with robust social services, unemployment benefits, widow pensions, access to housing can uphold social welfare without enabling abuse. Educational campaigns. Promoting the Justice Clause's ethical demands alongside legal reforms ensures communities understand that polygamy is neither a right to exploit nor a relic to discard without replacement protections. Is prohibition or regulated permission more faithful to the Quran's social welfare vision? Can licensing and judicial review truly guarantee justice, or do they risk becoming window dressing? What role should modern welfare states play in supplementing or replacing the charitable purpose polygamy once served? Polygamy's image is often sculpted by stories, some of hardship, others of solidarity. How societies and media frame these tales profoundly shapes acceptance or rejection of the practice. Literature and film, Middle Eastern cinema. Films like Polygamy in the Palace dramatize jealousy and rivalry, reinforcing fear of emotional neglect. In contrast, Sisters Under One Roof portrays co-wives collaborating to raise orphans, highlighting communal resilience. Modern novels, Arab and South Asian authors, Nawal El-Saadawi, Bapsi Sidhwa, expose the pain of involuntary polygamy, while smaller presses publish memoirs of women who thrive through negotiated fairness. TV and social media reality shows. In Nigeria and Indonesia, reality series follow polygamous families. Some depict heartbreak and financial strain. Others showcase co-wives sharing businesses and childcare responsibilities. Audience reactions, live tweets and comments often polarize between barbaric and beautifully supportive. Influencers and hashtags, campaigns like #2. Wives, one family share tips for equitable scheduling and financial planning. Conversely, No Second Wife petitions highlight forced marriages. These trending threads reveal a digital battleground over polygamy's moral currency. Religious discourse. Friday, sermons. Imams in Malaysia emphasize the Justice Clause, warning communities that unequal hearts break families more than lawful plural marriage. In some Gulf khutbahs, polygamy is extolled as a means of caring for vulnerable women. Online fatwas. Diverse rulings appear on YouTube and Telegram. One scholar asserts polygamy today is a relic, not a remedy, while another insists the Quranic allowance remains timeless for social welfare. Grassroots dialogues, community debates. Village councils in Pakistan host marriage justice forums where men and women discuss fairness, consent, and economic capacity. These dialogues often conclude with written pledges. Husbands commit to equal maintenance under mosque supervision. Support groups. Women's circles in Morocco and Sudan offer peer counseling for co-wives, sharing legal advice and emotional coping strategies. Their testimonials circulate on WhatsApp, providing practical guidance outside formal institutions. When media highlights sensational cases, do we lose sight of ethical nuance embedded in the justice clause? Can positive narratives of co-wife solidarity reshape public perceptions more effectively than laws alone? Who holds responsibility for balanced storytelling? Filmmakers, preachers, journalists, or community leaders? As modern states reconsider polygamy's welfare role, many introduce alternative support structures to protect widows, orphans, and vulnerable women without requiring plural marriage. State pensions and allowances. Tunisia pioneered a widow's pension in 1963, later indexing benefits to cost of living. Today, over 80% of eligible widows receive regular stipends, reducing financial pressure to remarry. Malaysia provides monthly allowances to single mothers through the Social Welfare Department. Eligibility is means-tested and non-religious, ensuring broad coverage. Orphan care and education grants, Egypt's Takaful and Karama cash transfer programs allocate funds to families with orphan children, supporting schooling, health care, and food security. By decoupling aid from marital status, the program serves all at-risk children equally. Indonesia's PIP program, Indonesia Pintar, issues education scholarships for orphans and poor girls, funded by zakat funds, but managed by the Ministry of Education, blending charity with state oversight. Community-based cooperatives, Morocco's Women's Solidarity Funds, Waqf-backed cooperatives pool zakat and corporate CSR contributions to offer zero-interest microloans, vocational training, and childcare services. Widows receive startup capital and mentorship, mirroring polygamy's security function without altering family structure. Nigeria's widow empowerment trusts form in Kano and Lagos. Local philanthropists endow funds that provide housing subsidies and healthcare vouchers, overseen by mixed panels of imams and civic leaders. Legal aid and counseling, Pakistan's Darul Qaza clinics. Mobile legal teams travel to rural areas, offering free advice on inheritance, maintenance, and custody. Women access Sharia and civil law guidance under one roof, reducing reliance on marriage for security. Jordan's family protection units embed social workers and religious counselors in police stations to support domestic violence survivors, ensuring immediate shelter and legal recourse. Can welfare systems fully replicate the communal intimacy that polygamy once provided? Do state-led programs risk bureaucratic delays that undermine urgent needs? How do we balance efficiency and empathy when replacing personal safety nets with institutional services? To determine whether social services successfully replace polygamy's support, we examine outcomes across metrics of security, dignity, and social cohesion. Economic security pension coverage. In Tunisia, 85% of widows report stable incomes post-reform, yet 15% still rely on extended family, highlighting gaps in rural outreach. Microloan repayment. Morocco's solidarity funds show 92% repayment rates, indicating women's capacity to leverage capital when empowered, contrasting anecdotal claims that polygamous allowances are more reliable. Social stigma and autonomy. Public perception. Surveys in Malaysia reveal that 70% of women receiving welfare view it as dignified support, while only 30% see polygamous marriage as acceptable aid. In urban Egypt, 65% of respondents prefer state allowances to remarriage for security. Psychological well-being. NGO reports from Indonesia's PIP program link scholarship recipients to higher self-esteem and lower divorce rates among their mothers, suggesting education grants counteract polygamy's emotional risks. Legal and cultural acceptance. Legislative backing. Countries with robust welfare tend to maintain polygamy bans without social backlash. Tunisia and Turkey report no significant uptick in informal plural unions after introducing widow pensio ensis community engagement. Morocco's cooperative model fosters local ownership. Villagers sit on oversight boards, ensuring services align with cultural norms and reduce suspicion of state intrusion. Gaps and future directions, rural exclusion, remote regions in Niger and Pakistan still lack consistent welfare access, leading some women to seek polygamous arrangements within extended families for survival. Sustainability. Reliance on charity and state budgets raises questions about long-term funding. Integrating Waqf endowments with national insurance schemes may offer resilience. Should polygamy's social function be preserved in exceptional hardship cases or fully replaced by universal services? Can blended models, conditional polygamy plus welfare, offer the best of both worlds? How do we measure success? By policy metrics or by women's lived experiences of security and agency? As we near the conclusion, we must weigh polygamy against the core Islamic values of justice, adl, mercy, rahma, and human agency. Justice versus equality. Quranic balance. The Justice Clause demands equitable treatment, not identical experiences. Absolute equality is an ideal, but practical fairness, providing for each wife's needs, is the binding requirement. Modern lens. Today's gender equality norms emphasize identical rights. Polygamy's unequal shares and divided attention can appear unjust. Yet, if a husband meets each wife's contractual terms, dowry, maintenance, time, then the Quranic mandate is fulfilled. Mercy as measure. Historical mercy. Polygamy served as a safety net for widows and orphans. The Prophet's marriages to vulnerable women exemplified compassionate solidarity. Contemporary compassion. When state welfare replaces personal care, does institutional aid carry the same warmth? Or is the mercy of a consort, emotional companionship, irreplaceable by any program? Agency and consent, contractual empowerment. Islamic law allows women to stipulate monogamy or specific conditions. True agency arises when these clauses are honored and courts enforce them. Cultural constraints. In many settings, women lack the freedom to negotiate. Empowerment requires both legal reform and cultural change so that consent is genuine, not coerced. The principle of public interest, maslaha, social welfare. Objective. The maqasid of Sharia include protection of the vulnerable. If polygamy benefits widows in contexts lacking social safety nets, it remains a valid tool. Evolving maslaha. Where robust welfare systems exist, maslaha may favor monogamy reinforced by state support. Jurists can invoke public interest to limit or guide polygamy's use. Is fairness in divided relationships achievable today, or does the modern ideal of equality render polygamy obsolete? Can institutional compassion ever match the personal mercy once provided by a husband's care? How do we ensure true consent in contexts still steeped in patriarchal norms? In wrestling with these questions, we honor the Quranic intent, protecting the vulnerable, while demanding the highest standards of justice and empathy. As we conclude this journey through polygamy's promises and pitfalls, the ultimate question returns: which path best serves justice, mercy, and human dignity? Choice within divine bounds. The Quran provides a framework, not a blanket mandate. It entrusts individuals and communities with applying its principles responsibly. When a husband freely chooses monogamy out of concern for fairness, he fulfills the verse's spirit. Where polygamy remains the sole means of support, its ethical use honors the practice. Community structures and safeguards, legal mechanisms, enforceable marriage contracts, judicial oversight, and accessible divorce, ensure that polygamy cannot become a tool of oppression. Social safety nets, robust welfare programs, widow pensions, orphan scholarships, microloans reduce economic compulsion, making plural marriage a choice, not necessity. Cultural evolution, narrative reframing, balancing stories of solidarity with honest portrayals of strain fosters nuanced understanding. Media, religious leaders, and educators must highlight both co-wife cooperation and the imperative of consent. Grassroots empowerment. Women's circles, legal clinics, and financial cooperatives ground abstract rights in lived reality, ensuring agency at every step. Conscience as final arbiter. Inner witness. Beyond courts and contracts, each heart bears witness to its own choices. A woman's genuine consent and a husband's sincere commitment to justice resonate louder than any legal provision. Collective responsibility. Families, scholars, and policymakers share the duty to cultivate environments where conscience can thrive, where polygamy is neither glorified nor demonized, but engaged with honesty and compassion. Let there be no compulsion in marriage. Let every bond be formed with mutual consent and care. Adapted thematic echo of Quranic spirit. Polygamy in Islam is neither an unqualified right nor an inherent oppression. It is a charged concession, demanding the highest standards of justice and mercy. My invitation to you: reflect on justice. Does your choice uphold equity? Invoke mercy? Does your practice protect the vulnerable? Honor agency. Are your bonds forged in free consent? Whether you stand for monogamy, conditional polygamy, or systemic welfare, let your path be guided by conscience, compassion, and the Quran's timeless call to protect those least able to protect themselves. I am Fakir al-Khamosh. May your decisions reflect the balance of divine wisdom and human dignity, today and always.